Gentlemen, I'm really thrilled today to be speaking with John Lloyd Young. He's all the way on the other coast, but we're happy to have him here at Theatre Pizzazz so we can talk more about his upcoming show, which is happening in Las Vegas. But I'll get to that, John, because we've got some other things that we really want to talk about so that your fans know everything. So why don't we just start at the very beginning?
My first show that I did, I actually had to, I lived in Washington Heights and I had to reverse commute to Princeton, New Jersey to the McCarter Theater. Their Ming Cho Lee designed Christmas Carol. I was, in the adult ensemble of that, earning my first points toward my equity membership, making, I think, $75 a week. Can you really say making $75 a week? But
I don't know, earning.
Well, definitely earned some of that. I mean, definitely earned more than 75 a week with the work that you do. But when you're starting out, a lot of times you got to find a way. And so that was my first professional experience. And I'm trying to think of, and then my first professional experience in New York City was not long after that. It was with a theater company that is really interesting, an alternative theater company called Target Margin Theater.
They're
and
still
it was,
around.
Yeah, still around, going strong. We did a show, a vast show with a huge cast about a bunch of mathematicians at a conference on the beach in Europe. It was surrealist and kind of experimental, and we did it at the Colony Theater on the Lower East Side. And I remember there was a point, and I played this nail-biting number theorist. I was one of three Italian brothers, and we had a theorem that we were presenting, and someone, I guess, someone disproved the theory or something in the story of the play. And this was the kind of play where you broke the rules of the theater. And I was so traumatized by our theory being disproven that I jumped off the stage into the front row and cowered near the feet of the people in the front row, the audience, cowered in the fetal position because but there were fun things that you could do like that, in most shows you have to be a lot more restrained, but we were able to color outside the lines, and that was fascinating. First experience for me.
What an experience. And you weren't singing in that show either.
No, it took a long time for me to actually start to sing in shows. Most of the shows in the beginning, those first years in New York, were plays and experimental things, like on Ludlow Street and in a storefront theater. And that was, there wasn't money coming in, but it was a fascinating time artistically, because I got to do a lot of things that, when you're doing more commercial productions, you're not given the wide berth to do.
Yeah. So here you had all of the leeway that you needed to really explore, experiment, and create JLY into where you are today.
The teachers I had were really, really knew how to make you be able to make that transition from playing to an audience of whatever. Storefront theater sometimes is like 30 people, but a big Broadway house could be 1,000, whatever. To go from that to something that's more contained takes some instruction if most of what you're doing is on stage. So one of those was Eric Loeb. He was a really influential teacher for me. And then one of the first really substantial roles that I got to play was in a dramatic adaptation of Chaim Potok's The Chosen opposite Theodore Bikel.
Oh my.
And Theodore Bikel, I played his son. I played Danny Saunders. He was the rabbi, and I played the heir apparent, that character. So a lot of people know that story. It's a beautiful story. And so I was working with him as two actors, but he also was a kind of guy that really jived with who I am as a person, an Ivy Leaguer, a multilingual person. He spoke 5 languages fluently. He was the president of Actors Equity for, I think, 12 years. So lots of uh, political acumen, and in subsequent years, I had, I was an Obama appointee years down the line. So I also had some things, innate uh, affinities for political things. And so he was an embodiment of things that I was interested in, and then I myself went down and achieved down the line. And I saw in him that you can do multiple things in the business. He was also a folk singer and had a concert career totally separate from his acting career. He did films, he did Broadway. He was the original Captain Von Trapp in The Sound of Music, which he could do no wrong, because that to me was just such a classic show. And he was there in the beginning. That was deeply influential to me, to work with him and then be friends with him through the rest of his life, because he embodied what the many things that one can do, and that you don't have to pigeonhole yourself into one area in entertainment. You can actually have it all if you want. We were in a period then where there were a lot of misfired jukebox musicals that kind of, were made a fool of the audience. So sort of, they were seemingly kind of lazily put together just as a way to get the catalog of whatever artist out there. And so I had very low expectations when Jersey Boys came knocking as a possible thing to audition for. And it was a regional theater production at that time. It was intended for La Jolla Playhouse in California. And so I just really didn't have a strong feeling about it either way. I figured it could possibly be garbage, but a regional theater job for me at that point would have been a lot more money than I'd been making at storefront theater in Ludlow Street. And it would take me away from my temping job at Morgan Stanley, give me a chance to go be creative in a sunny place. Like, I didn't have a bad attitude about that. I just didn't expect much from the material. Let's put it that way. And, so I didn't really overly prepare at that point, or I didn't realize what it could be. And it was just another audition. And it was one of those just another auditions that went farther than most. And so I thought, wow, this is strangely actable. I mean, there's good material here, because they gave you a monologue and stuff like that. And I didn't know at that time that, I knew I had a falsetto. I didn't know at that time I'd be able to do it 8 shows a week. I had no real knowledge of how I would do that. So it just kind of caught me unawares. And I was, what was I doing at that time? Yeah, I was doing those things. So I went in, I auditioned for it. I got pretty close. I didn't realize that they were also having auditions on the West Coast. And so it looked like I would maybe get it. And then I didn't get the phone call, which happens with so many auditions. And I saw that, oh, okay, they found a guy who's about 5 years older than me and more experienced at that point. And they went away, they did it at La Jolla. But then I was still focused on things in New York. And then reading the trades or playbill.com, whatever, at that point, I could see that it was being extended at La Jolla and that it was doing well out there. But I didn't have much at stake in it because I was not in it and I was doing my own things. So there came a time when it was then announced for Broadway. And I had read that the guy who played it regionally in the production where they built it wasn't going to come. So I had a hunch that they would come back to me because I'd made it so far before. And in that year, since I had auditioned initially, I understudied for this really great play called The Drawer Boy at Paper Mill Playhouse. It starred John Mahoney. Mm-hmm. So I was in the wings watching John Mahoney work. And then I had done a workshop of, it took 10 years after that for it to finally get to Broadway, but one of the early workshops of A Bronx Tale for Chaz Palminteri, who also was influential for me because he just thought I was good. And, I was playing the lead in his Bronx Tale thing, and it was for director Michael Greif at that point. It's, Rent, like these people could, I was nervous just working with these people because I admired what they had achieved so much. By the time Jersey Boys came knocking again, I had done those two things and engaged with that level of people, and I was much more confident and more experienced. At those early years when you're first starting out in New York, one or two projects can give you the experience that really pushes you over the edge. Where it's like a few months earlier, you hadn't had that experience yet. So I was ready to go by the time they came. And but they really made me jump through hoops. I mean, I had to prove it. 6 or 7 auditions before they said you can do it.
Well, they put you through a ringer for sure.
Well, there was one week that was like one amazing thing after another. I think there was one week, and it might have been our lead up to the Tony Awards. It was around then. It was in May or something, I think. And there was Madeleine Albright in the audience, and like Bruce Springsteen and President Clinton. And that there was a day I think President Clinton came to our matinee. We were police escorted to Carnegie Hall to do a performance for the CBS executives and all of their advertisers. It was the Upfronts week where they were selling advertising for their next season of television shows. And then we were, police escorted back to do the evening show at the theater. It was really heady. And it was, it was a VIP treatment around a mega hit show. So you don't actually get to experience that stuff very often as an actor, I think. Maybe you get to have one mega hit show in a career that certain people are working on. There were a lot of pinch me moments, but when you're doing 6, 8 shows a week, whatever, you don't have a lot of time to savor. You got to get back up at the plate and do your job. So it's mostly in hindsight that you can really appreciate it. In the midst of it, you're trying to survive to the next day, to give a great performance for that next audience that comes and expects to see what they've heard about. And it has to be that level. That's the toughest part, is maintaining that level when you're exhausted from all the other stuff you have to do.
Yeah, I mean, everybody looks at the glamour of it and says, wow, what a lucky guy. And, and they think that it's just, oh, he just gets to do this same great music every night. And, unless you're in the theater and know what's going on, it just all seems like glamour and fun. And of course, most of us know that it's a lot more than that, and it takes its toll on you too.
I think most of the glamour comes after.
Yeah.
Most of the glamour comes from afterward, where you're a cherished guest, or you have your standing has increased, so you have access to other glamorous people.
Mm-hmm.
And with the case of something like Jersey Boys, which is such a huge success that still continues even all these years later, that you can't say that for many shows, but that it's still an amazing calling card wherever I go.
Yes. Yes, it is.
And that's astonishing to me. I don't think that happens.
It's historic. So it has to be, people can never forget, and people can never think about Jersey Boys without synonymously saying, oh, John Lloyd Young, he played Frankie Valli. There's only one, and it's you. And of course, you're very fortunate, but then again, you're fortunate because you had the goods and you were able to deliver. But you made the film, and how different was that from actually being on Broadway?
Well, so I had alluded to this earlier with a lot of my training in New York was I had ended up gravitating toward people who really were teachers who really were kind of more about film acting. And so when I got to I mean, I had done some things that were less profile before then. It wasn't the first time I was ever in front of a camera, but certainly with a director as widely known as Clint Eastwood, and for a studio as august studio like Warner Brothers, it's a historic place, you know, it was a bigger project than I had ever done. Um,
Overwhelming?
Not overwhelming. Well, the only part about it that was kind of overwhelming is that Clint Eastwood shoots really fast. He
Okay.
doesn't go back and look at things again. You got to get it on that day, or you never go back to get it again. And so there's a lot of pressure to, you know, you don't have the ability to go back and revisit something if you don't feel like you nailed it on that day. And so we had a 40-day shoot. I worked every day of that shoot. And, you know, some days I was in, you know, playing a young version of Frankie Valli and then an age makeup at the end of the day. And you had to jump all the way around the script on even sometimes the same day and get the older version and the younger version.
I'd like to just jump to, you work with a lot of charities, um, from AMFAR to the ACLU to cystic fibrosis. And are there specific connections that you have with any of them, or is it just something that you get involved with because somebody asks you to do it?
Sometimes the ask is what gets me involved. You know, in the beginning, when people start to ask you to be involved, it's so flattering, because when you're a struggling actor that people don't know, or struggling performer, I guess, in any area, um, you don't get asked to do anything, you know. So it's to be asked, period, is flattering, and you want to say yes. Um, I discovered very early on with Jersey Boys that and because of Broadway Cares, Equity Fights AIDS, that you kind of do really well in terms of raking it in for that charity if you're a hit show, because you have so much goodwill around your show. So you end up, you know, being on one of the top fundraisers of the Broadway season, because you just have so many people there who love you so much they want to throw money at your charitable cause, you know, and help out. And discovering that the goodwill around a performance could really help you to do some real, to make a real difference with a charity or whatever, was very exciting to me. A very exciting, unanticipated side of it. And so I just continued with that. And so when I moved out to Los Angeles, Broadway Cares, Equity Fights AIDS, the sort of natural thing that people would ask me to do from that would be like, you know, sing the anthem for the AIDS walk. And so I got involved with AIDS Project Los Angeles and AMFAR and sort of those things for a few years. My natural mother passed away of cystic fibrosis when I was very little.
Oh.
And that's part of my history, and my fans picked up on that. So my involvement with cystic fibrosis is mostly fan generated. Every year around my mother's birthday, they raise money as sort of like a gift to me, and deliver their hundreds of checks or whatever that they, you know, to the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation.
Yeah.
Because it hits so close to home, my own involvement with that is only indirect. I don't want to marinate in those feelings, but I'm happy. I definitely support what the fans do for me, and would do stuff for cystic fibrosis if they really wanted me to. What's so fascinating to me is that in these charitable things, whatever, but when I look back now over my time from, you know, emerging as this figure for Broadway, I can count now that I performed Can't Take My Eyes Off You for every administration from the Clintons, you know, to now. Everybody, every person that you could say was the leaders of our country, and with just the same reception from all of those groups. Not any different treatment in terms of everyone has been so warm and wonderful to me. because certain entertainment is and should be bipartisan. I mean, Can't Take My Eyes Off You should not be Republican or Democrat or Green Party or whatever. It's just a universal sentiment. So I've found that also to be kind of fascinating, a special identity as a person known from entertainment that not every person in entertainment can have. You're not gonna have Ted Nugent invited to the Biden White House, and you're probably not gonna have, like, I don't know, Rob Reiner invited to a Republican White House. But John Lloyd Young can be invited to both, which is very fascinating because it's almost like a Forrest Gump kind of thing. I've seen a lot of things and I've heard a lot of conversations that uh, anyone else in any other profession or any other arena might not, you know. So I was, officially involved with the Obama administration, and I was in Washington, D.C., I think maybe November before the inaugural for Donald Trump, doing things for Obama. And in February, a month after the inaugural, I was in a dinner with people that were big USO supporters from the other side of the aisle. And who shows up at the dinner? Vice President and Mrs. Pence. And I'm singing Can't Take My Eyes Off You to Mrs. Pence. On this side of the pandemic where things are coming back, this particular one that I'm doing will, first of all, be the first one where people are really back in Vegas and they can come in person. The first one in more than a year, where as many people as want to come can come. But I'm also doing the live stream for those who can't come. So I think that the difference between this and a Broadway show is that, first of all, it's my show, and it's a concert. So I get to pick and choose my material depending on the occasion. And this occasion is Vegas is back, and lots of things are coming back, and we can go out again and be in a room together and watch a concert. So I felt like with this one more than any other, I wanted to do something that was like electric and exciting and celebratory. And so this one I'm doing a period of music that is that came out of a time that is very similar to what we're coming out of now. The 70s, early 70s, Vietnam, all that stuff. Those were tough times. And then on the other side of it, as we started to come out of those recessions and wars and assassinations and things at the end of the 60s, we had this period of disco music and we just danced our troubles away. Soul Train happened and like all these things. And so Burt Sugarman's Midnight Hour, there was just like this wonderful theatrical, exciting period of music that I haven't covered before, but there were still things left over from the 60s that were happening then. Like there was really great, amazing, great, African-American music then, like fantastic falsetto singing then, like Earth, Wind and Fire, the stylistics, that kind of stuff that is just delectable. And with my bona fides from, singing Frankie Valli and everything, I have the instrument to sing that later stuff, the 70s stuff. And so I wanted to kind of literally bring out a disco ball and sort of sing songs that were from another period where there was a letting up of pressure and we were just enjoying life and enjoying these sounds. And I've hired a horn player for this one. It's the first time since the pandemic that I'll have a full band. Wow. And I don't know if you know musicians, but that period of music, when they were still using live instruments, but disco and all that stuff is really fun and exciting for a band to play. So part of this concert also is about letting the band come out and play. In fact, I'm throwing them a few numbers that are just them. So right. Tommy Farragher, my music director, can do what he does best and lead this band to these sounds that we loved and that are from a happy time where we were just breathing a sigh of relief. That's what my goal is for this concert amongst all the ones that I've done. And it's an entirely new set for me too, which is not always the case. So I have a lot of stuff to learn. I'm thinking, I'll hang up with you and go and work on my lyrics. But yeah, I think that it's time to celebrate, and it just happens to be a week after my birthday, July 9th, 7 p.m. Pacific time, and I think there'll even be cake there for the people there in person, the people that are there in person. Um, I always do an after party afterward, and so afterward, I'm going to keep the band for a little while, and I'm going to do my some of my hits with my audience's original songs I've written with Tommy Farragher, but with the full sound of a band for the first time more than a year. And then afterward, I'm going to do something interesting with the fans that are there. I usually have meet and greets, but I don't feel comfortable doing meet and greets just yet. We're still in the pandemic. What I'm going to do is I'm going to call some people up randomly from the audience on stage, and I'm going to interview them.
Wow.
Where did you come in from? What are you doing here? Tell people about the first time we met, because I have a feeling I'm going to know some of these people. And so I'm going to make it about, if they're there in person, I'm going to make it about them for a little bit. And who's not there in person, people who are watching live stream will see these things if they stay for the after party, to see me do my originals with the band and these interviews with friends and fans.
How
So
fabulous. Oh,
yeah.
fun, fabulous. So tell the audience all the details so everybody knows how they can either see you live in Vegas or the live stream.
Okay, so all of the information. So first of all, it's July 9th, 7 p.m. Pacific time. And unlike other ones, this won't be on demand afterwards. So if you are choosing to stream it, you got to watch it in real time or you'll miss the whole thing. So it's 7 p.m. Pacific time. The first half is a concert, and you can just watch that. That's fine. But if you want to stick around for those extra things, then there's the after party. So you can get both, or you can just watch the concert. Up to you. And then in terms of in person, that you just come and you show up 7 p.m. Pacific time, and you sit there and you're there for the whole thing in person. And you get to have birthday cake, which could be a little hard if you're watching it virtually. You just have to sit there and salivate. So, but all of those ticket options are available at thespacelv.com. Thespacelv for Las Vegas.com. And it's July 9th. It's a Friday.
What a show this is going to be. It's going to be, yeah, because we're going to get to see JLY doing material that you haven't seen him do before.
I mean, and going for it. So just think the Shaft theme, that sort of stuff, like, out there stuff. But I'm so excited to do it because
oh yeah,
they're delectable songs, and I think we can go for broke right now after everything we've been through. I think we can let our hair down a little bit and just have some fun.
A lot. So, John, this has just been such a great experience talking with you, and thank you for being so forthcoming and frank about so much of your life and who you are. And I wish I could be there live and in person, but
well, I'll see you in New York. That's going to happen.
Oh, I can't wait.
Now.
Well, you just keep me posted on that, because I'll be raring to go to wherever it is, and hopefully you're going to be in, I don't know. I mean,
well, it's going to be 54 below the last week of January, but we'll talk about that another time. But yeah, it's booked.
Okay.
It's on the book.
You heard that, folks. John Lloyd Young coming to 54 below last week in January 2022. Get ready. So
well, looking forward to seeing you again in the flesh.
And you. All right.
Thanks for doing this.
Take care.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Be well.